Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today, you'll learn little-known facts about the history of China from the fall of the Song Empire all the way to World War II, which is known in China as the Second Sino-Japanese War. During the previous Song dynasty, three tribal groups had established kingdoms in the north of China. They adopted Chinese culture and tradition and formed Chinese dynasties. One of these was the Khitan Empire, that formed the Liao dynasty, 907–1125. In 2004, to prevent invasion from these northern tribes, the Song Empire began paying tributes in money and silk. However, in 1227, the Jurchens conquered northern Song, and the Song government fled to the south. Thus, the southern Song dynasty was formed. It lasted until 1279. In 1234, the Mongols under Genghis Khan conquered the Jin Empire, and after a period of peace, the southern Song dynasty was finally overthrown in 1279. Genghis Khan's grandson, Kublai Khan, declared himself emperor and proclaimed the Yuan dynasty in 1271. Many achievements were made during his reign, such as the rebuilding of the Grand Canal and the establishment of a postal system. Additionally, during his reign, Marco Polo was sent by Pope Gregory X on a trade mission to China. He came to the court of Kublai Khan, where he served as emissary to different parts of the empire. The Mongols instituted a hierarchy that put the Mongols on top and discriminated against the local Han Chinese population. Furthermore, the failed invasions of Japan and Southeast Asia depleted resources. Consequently, the king overtaxed the peasants. Together, all these issues incensed the Han population, who revolted in what is known as the Red Turban Rebellion, which lasted from 1351 to 1368. The insurrection quickly grew into a civil war that defeated the Yuan government, and the last Yuan emperor fled north to Mongolia, and there he established the northern Yuan dynasty. In 1368, one of the leaders of the Red Turban Rebellion, Chu Huanzhang, declared himself emperor. Thus began the Ming dynasty. It lasted until 1644. The period marked a climax and a golden age in Chinese history due to the many remarkable accomplishments. The Ming Empire brought great prosperity to the empire. There were major improvements in architecture and foreign trade. Due to the constant Mongol incursions, the Great Wall was extended and repaired. The emperor divided the territory into administrative sections in order to better control the realm. Emperor Yunlo moved the capital to Beijing in 1421. There he commissioned the Forbidden City, his palace, to be built. Access was prohibited to most of his subjects, hence the name of the abode. Another of his feats was that he sent Admiral Zheng He on a mission to increase trade. He embarked on a total of 7 voyages across the Indian Ocean. He reached places like Africa, Arabia, India, and the Malay archipelago. Porcelain production was in high demand in global markets, thus its manufacture greatly increased. By the 16th century, European trade greatly increased, though it was limited to Guangzhou, then called Canton, and the island of Macau, which was given to the Portuguese in 1557 as a rental agreement. Portugal had to pay an annual lease for the use of the port as a trading outpost. Western powers kept encroaching upon China, and even some wars were fought for control of the trade, but more on that later. Several factors contributed to the collapse of the Ming Empire. Among them were the Little Ice Age, which reduced agricultural yield. This, in turn, caused widespread famine, followed by unrest from the populace. Emperors became weak leaders in that they mainly cloistered themselves within the Forbidden City, not even leading their armies to battle. Also, great sums of money were spent to defend against the constant Mongol incursions. Finally, in 1644, the Manchus from the northeast dealt a final blow to the empire. Hence began the last imperial dynasty in China, the Qing dynasty, which lasted until its demise in 1911. The Manchus were a series of tribes in northeastern China that were united under the leadership of Nurhaci in 1616. He established the later Jin dynasty, which was later renamed as the Qing. In 1644, Beijing was conquered. Thus began their dominion over the realm. The Qing Empire reached the height of its power under the rule of the Emperor Qianlong, who led 10 great campaigns into Inner Asia and Taiwan in the 18th century. He also promoted the recording of Confucian ideals in order to preserve them. In the 19th century, British traders were very interested in buying Chinese porcelain, silk, and tea. Nevertheless, China wouldn't trade for the British goods. They would only accept silver as payment. This proved to be a problem for the British since their economy was being depleted. Hence, the East India Company began to sell opium, a highly addictive drug, to China. This fixed the trade imbalance, since the Chinese paid with silver. To the detriment of the dynasty, there were countless addicts. As a result, Emperor Qia Qing prohibited the sale of the drug. In May 1839, the Chinese government destroyed 20,000 chests of opium. This caused an outrage among the British, which sparked the First Opium War, which lasted from 1840 to 1842. After a series of maritime battles, Britain with its superior naval fleet was victorious. The Treaty of Nantiu ended the war. In this treaty, China had to cede Hong Kong to Britain, pay them a large amount of money, and open more ports to European trade. In 1850, a civil war began. It was the bloodiest civil war in history with over 20 million deaths. The Manchu-led Qing dynasty fought against the Taiping-led Heavenly Kingdom. Hong Xiu-shan, a Han peasant and self-proclaimed brother of Jesus Christ, led the insurrection. Hong's main goals were converting the Han to Christianity and overthrow the Qing government. Several reforms of Chinese society were sought after, such as land redistribution and the abolition of slavery. In 1851, Hong and his 60,000-men army took the city of Yonggan, and there he proclaimed the Taiping Heavenly Kingdom. He also prohibited relationship between men and women. The skirmishes were mainly fought in southern and central China. At the peak of the rebellion, the Taiping controlled vast territories in southern China, including the city of Nantiu, which was renamed Taiyanjin, or Heavenly Capital. In the end, with the aid of Britain and France, the Qing regime was able to defeat the costly Taiping Rebellion. In 1856, the Second Opium War was fought. It involved the Qing dynasty, Britain, France, and to a lesser extent, the United States and Russia. The main issue that caused the belligerency was that the closure of ports to Western powers. Additionally, Britain desired to have an ambassador in Beijing and the legalization of opium trade. The incident that sparked the war was the arrest of the crew of a suspected pirate ship, which was registered under the British Navy. China was defeated. By means of the Convention of Peking, a series of unequal treaties between China and three Western powers, namely Britain, France, and Russia, the Qing government had to cede territory, open more seaports to trade, legalize opium trade, and pay indemnities. All these treaties caused the century of humiliation for China. Foreign powers started encroaching into the empire. Tributary states such as Vietnam, Korea, and Ryukyu were lost due to colonization by other entities. Japan had just undergone the Meiji Restoration and desired to expand its sphere of influence in East Asia. In Korea, there was a peasant rebellion that aimed to rid themselves of being a Chinese tributary system. Now Japan desired to make the peninsula a satellite state. Thus, the First Sino-Japanese War began in August 1894. After a series of battles in Korea and Manchuria, Japan emerged victorious. Through the Treaty of Shimonoseki, signed in April 1895, that ended the war, China had to recognize the independence of Korea and cede Taiwan, the Pescadores Islands, and Liaodong Peninsula. This conflict highlighted the fact that the Qing dynasty was a weakening empire. As the Qing Empire gradually declined, European powers, namely Russia, Japan, Britain, France, and Germany, began to expand their power and make a profit off of China by colonizing parts of the country. These goals were accomplished by forcing China to sign unequal treaties after trade and civil wars. This was a form of gunboat diplomacy, which is when imperial powers use threat of military force to secure concessions. Foreign powers avoided going to war with each other because of the open-door policy of the United States, which advocated that no imperial power should attempt to block another's influence in China. Due to all the encroachment by foreign powers, in October 1899, a peasant rebellion started. It is called the Boxer Rebellion. It was an anti-foreign, anti-colonial, and anti-Christian movement. The Society of the Righteous and Harmonious Fists commandeered a rebellion against the spread of foreign influence. It was named thus because of the use of martial arts by the villagers. In June 1900, the Boxers laid a siege on the embassies. Consequently, many emissaries and Chinese Christians were trapped. On August of the same year, 20,000 troops from the Eight-Nation Alliance entered Beijing and broke the siege. This Eight-Nation Alliance was comprised of Austria-Hungary, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Russia, UK, and US. After the victory of the Qing government, these Western countries demanded that China pay indemnities for their defense of the dynasty. This conflict was the final blow to the Qing Empire. For 10 years later, it collapsed. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget TP like, share, and subscribe. Stay tuned for part 3, in which you'll learn the history from the Xinhai Revolution to the modern times.